should you work at a ski resort this winter? Now, I have just finished up my second winter of working at a ski resort. I have worked at one in Idaho, and then just now finishing up the season in a ski resort in Vermont. So I'm actually here hiking the Appalachian Trail in Vermont now that it's warmed up and the snow has melted. So the thing about ski resorts that I have discovered is that they're not for everyone, but if they are for you, then you're really going to enjoy them. So I would say the first and most obvious benefit of working at a ski resort for a winter season is the pay, because ski resorts usually pay a very good amount, especially compared to other seasonal jobs, like even just regular summer seasonal jobs. And I don't think I've really seen positions at ski resorts that are paying less than $20 an hour. So, I've crossed into a bike trail. Anyway, so at least $20 an hour, I would say, is the going rate. They, usually more, depending on your position. But, so that is nice. You do also have to factor in how much the housing is. And housing is where it comes in for me. If you are particular about housing, that is something to look out for. So the first ski resort I worked for out in Idaho was really nice, except for the housing. So the housing itself, the building itself, was actually quite nice. It was pretty new. The problem was that they would put 4 people in one room. So I had 3 roommates in one little room that, looked like it wasn't designed to have more than 1 or 2 beds. So it was very cramped. And they put me, places I have worked previously, seasonally, they usually try to make some sort of accommodation for, they try to house you with people that are either have the same schedules as you or in the same department as you or something in common with you. But they did not seem to do that at all with where I was staying. So it led to a lot of just discomfort, I would say. Everyone's waking up at different times, interrupting each other's sleep schedules. Just really hard to get along with each other. There's no space to put any of your things. So that was very unpleasant for me. And some people don't mind, being in a small room with a lot of people, but I'm a pretty introverted person, so it was very unpleasant for me. The housing was very cheap, though. I think it was maybe $400 or less per month, so it was very cheap. There were units that had only 2 people per room, but those were few and far between. I think they were usually reserved for couples, so I never got the luxury of staying in those, but at least the bonus was that you did have your own bathroom. At least in that building. There was a second building that still put you 4 people to a room, and then also you had a communal bathroom, which I think just sounds horrible. But yeah, so that is something to consider if you are particular about housing. And for the price of it and everything, and how that corresponds to what you're making. Now, the other thing is the food options. Again, the first place I worked, they did have an EDR, an employee dining room, which I enjoyed. That makes it a lot easier. You don't have to buy groceries, which are usually expensive in places like that. So yeah, you can save money pretty easily. You don't have to worry about meal planning. The food isn't always the best, but better than nothing. And then the second place that I worked at, ski resort that I worked at this winter here in Vermont, they did not have an employee meal plan. So that, at least for me, makes it a bit more complicated in terms of meal planning and everything, because there's only one communal kitchen, which is kind of difficult to use since everyone else is also trying to use it. And I I usually try to avoid using it in the first place. Here's a river behind me. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, to each their own. Some people like cooking. I do not, mostly. But, and it also adds up to the amount of money that you're spending overall for your season, in addition to the rent of housing and then the food in comparison to how much you're making. So in both places I made $20 an hour. And yeah, the one in Idaho, really cheap housing. This one here in Vermont, the housing was more expensive, about $600 a month. And then considering that I have to buy my own groceries, that makes it harder to save money. But yeah, the benefit of here in Vermont, the housing was quite nice. And only 2 people per room, and the rooms have their own bathroom and everything. And yeah, so no complaints really about the housing here. But then you also have to consider the benefits of working at a ski resort instead of just, you know, the logistics of it. For example, if so I started when I went to the first ski resort ever for me. I did not know how to ski. I had never skied a day in my life, and that was interesting. So I kind of went with the goal of learning how to ski because I did really want to know how to learn, and I did, and it was fun. But if you already do know how to ski and you're good at it, I would say you would probably have just like a total blast for the most part at working at ski resorts. But again, that also depends on your schedule and what job you have and things like that, because you might, you know, if the lifts close at 4 and you're always on a morning shift, you're never going to be able to go skiing except on your weekends, which is kind of how it was for this season for me. But yeah, so you really have to factor in a lot of things to make it work out. The skiing itself is quite fun, I will admit, even though I'm not very good at it. And the thing, though, that I feel like is common to probably all ski resorts, and that I'm not a fan of, is that if you are not skiing, you are drinking. So that is a very big thing. I feel like, I don't know, I was never much into that. If you are, then you would probably have an absolute blast working at a ski resort, because, you know, you can go from skiing to drinking and back to skiing and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I also feel like ski resorts are very, I don't know, cliquish in a certain way, because usually they are operating year round. They have stuff going on in the summer. So you have people who have been there, you know, they're full-time workers, they've been there for years, and it can be hard to make friends and form relationships when there are already established groups like that. It does depend, you know, maybe if you're more outgoing it's easier, but I would say in general it's a bit more difficult compared to places that are not open year-round. For example, Yellowstone, where I used to work, everyone kind of goes in completely new, so it makes it easier to, you know, group up with other new people. But yeah, I also personally get tired of the snow. And obviously going in, it's obvious that there's going to be snow for many months when you work at a ski resort. But really, working at one a second time kind of established that I don't want to work at any more ski resorts, at least not in the immediate future. Driving in the snow is scary, which I have discovered. And I don't know, I just feel like lots of stuff is closed in the winter that's not immediately pertinent to the ski resort itself, which is annoying. But yeah, so those are a lot of things to consider about working at ski resorts. Again, I feel like if you are a very outgoing person and you like to ski or snowboard and you enjoy going out to like the bar after work or whatever with your friends, then you would probably have just a blast at a ski resort. And if you don't mind having a lot of roommates, some people can definitely make the most of that. But for other people, maybe that are more introverted and not, much of a party scene sort of person, probably not as fun. Now, I do know that there are some ski resorts that do really care about their employees and have really good housing. Sometimes you even have your own private room in some of them, and things like that. So that's not to say that all ski resorts are the same, though I imagine many of them are pretty similar. I was very interested in working at some in Colorado. Telluride and Steamboat Springs were pretty interesting to me, but the other thing that I discovered, because when I started applying to jobs pretty late this winter, I had just gotten back from Europe doing the Camino de Santiago, as many of you may know if you've watched my other videos, but because of that, I was not able to apply to any jobs really until early December, which is kind of pretty late to be applying for winter jobs. Usually you apply in like September or October, so by the time I applied, there was not much left. And the ones that I was kind of excited to apply for, when they finally got back to me, they had no employee housing. And that's kind of the first thing they would say to me in an interview is, "Oh, just to let you know, we are totally filled up on employee housing." And I just had to say, "Well, I'm sorry, but I can't go there unless there's housing." So those were just, gone with the wind. And then again, that is important to consider. Do you need housing? Or maybe if you're lucky you have like a camper van or an RV, you won't need housing probably. So yeah, depends on person to person. But that was just kind of my experience, my takeaways from working at winter seasons. Also, I would say by March, going into April, working at a ski resort becomes really, really boring because it is considered mud season and not much to do. People aren't going skiing anymore, really. A few people. And the snow gets all sticky and slushy and you're just kind of standing around for most of your shift. Now, I am speaking from a hotel front desk perspective. That's the only job I usually ever work at seasonally. You might have more fun working in a different position. But for front desk, I would say there's a lot of standing around towards the end of the season. There's not much to do. I would bring a book, try to do something productive in the slow time. But yeah, So yeah, that's just kind of my perspective on ski resorts. I'm not really interested in doing them again if I can help it. This one that I worked at just now, finishing up in Vermont, was pretty much one of the ones that got back to me the fastest and had housing. So, you know, I kind of wanted to work maybe in Grand Canyon or something, but hopefully next year I'll be out in the desert somewhere hiking in the middle of January or something like that. But yeah, so hopefully, you know, this video was helpful if you're considering working at a ski resort for the winter. But yeah, so that was my experience there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I'd appreciate a like or subscribe maybe. And yeah, I make videos about once a week, so stick around for those.